Welcome into Sports Memo's Betting Podcast, XFL edition. We're talking XFL. Yes, you heard that right. Football is back only a couple days after the Super Bowl, but we're breaking it down here. We got season win totals, and week one starts on Saturday. We got Robbie Veno breaking it down. I'm going to be looking into it as well, trying to find advantages here, guys. But Rob, welcome to the pod. How are you?
I am great today, Drew. How about yourself? I think that as we dig into this, I know that when you and I first texted back and forth with this as an idea for a podcast, I started to dive into it and found that I think this is going to be pretty good stuff. I mean, I was involved in the AAF last year, released plays every week, had a pretty good season, so there's never enough football. But there's some rule changes here, Drew, that you and I will go through, and we talked about off air that are going to make this league pretty fun.
Absolutely, Rob. When it first started off, I was kind of, a little bit hesitant about deep diving in and how serious is this going to be. But after seeing some of these names, Rob, and I'm talking about the players' names on the roster, any college football fan out there, you could be a halfway college football fan. And I think you're going to get a little excited here. And talking about a new league, Rob, these odds makers, they're perplexed right now. We were just talking about it off camera in terms of, hey, we're not going to be taking big limits. And you know what that means, Rob? That means they know that they're susceptible. So as long as we can find advantages in here, I think we can find some more winners than losers. Talking about XFL early on in this season, this is like the wild, wild west, man. So what are you thinking here, kind of overall thoughts going into the XFL season?
Well, I think the first thing you look for, Drew, is look at styles, team philosophies, and maybe you can find somebody that can get out of the gates quick before team defenses or team offenses have a chance to adjust to it. For instance, if you look at the Houston Roughnecks, they're coached by June Jones. June Jones, obviously known for the run and shoot. For those who follow college football, you'll know that he started it at Hawaii, and Hawaii under Nick Rolovich continued that, and very successful pass-oriented style. Kind of hard to prep for, Drew. In college football, we often talk about how if you only have 1 week to get ready for the option, it makes it tough because you can't really simulate it in practice. Same goes for an offense like this. Another one that you might want to look at real quick is the fact that Hal Mummy, father of the Air Raid, is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Renegades, who are coached by Bob Stoops. So you might see some Air Raid stuff out of the Dallas Renegades. And these types of style advantages, I'll call them, right? Philosophical advantages might get us through a couple of weeks with some winners here before other teams can catch up to that type of stuff. But it'll be interesting to see how each team comes out. We were talking off air a little bit here, Drew. The depth charts aren't really set yet. We're good on quarterbacks. We know who they're going to be, but we don't know the entirety of the depth chart on both sides of the football. But still, I think philosophy goes a long way. And of course, maybe the biggest thing of all is offensive line play. That's the hardest thing to gauge. Who's going to have a good offensive line? Who's is cohesive? Who's isn't? That, when I think back to how I prepped for the AAF last year, was a major concern of mine. And right now, that's where I continue to dig.
Okay, so I could see that. Offensive line, how strong are they going to be? That's going to be something that a lot of, I guess recreational bettors out there wouldn't really necessarily dig deep into. So that could be a huge advantage there. Talking about quarterbacks, obviously, quarterback, I think still with the XFL, the change in rules, it's going to be the most important position, just the way the sport sets up. Talking about these rules changes, Rob, in conceptually speaking, just going over them, I think that this is going to be a high-scoring league. Now, however, football, week 1, week 2, with the offense, timing kind of somewhat being an issue, it might not be. But I'm telling you this, off the open, I'm looking for a lot of scoring here. Just some of the rules changes here, Robbie. We're seeing, any part of the body inbounds and you catch the ball, that's a catch. The play clock, 25 seconds, NFL's 40. Under 2 minutes, it's going to stop at pretty much any time, and then it will run again when they get the ball set. Just a lot of these rules seem to be favoring the offense, in my opinion. I'll throw it over to you. In terms of the rules changes, did you want to throw any rules out there that you think might surprise some people here? I know the kickoff's different. I'm interested to see how that goes, and also how you're looking to kind of bet totals here when they come out for XFL Week 1.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, Drew, where the league is trying to have an exciting brand of football. So scoring, in all likelihood, that's the goal of the league, is to get some scoring. And another goal, of course, is to get some of these guys another chance into the NFL, which is what the AAF was trying to do last spring. Get players who have had a shot in a camp, got cut, give them another look and a chance to get back to the NFL. I'll add a couple of things to what you said about more scoring here. They've done away with fair catches on punts, and they've basically done away with kicking the ball out of the end zone on a kickoff. And how they've done that is on a punt. If you kick the ball into the end zone on a punt, that ball automatically comes out to the 35-yard line. Gives you a short field, 65-yard field, which will deter a lot of coaches from, trying to just kick it through the end zone. If you kick the ball out of bounds at any point on the field, if you kick it out of bounds inside the opposing 35, it'll come out to the 35. If you shank it, it just comes to the further out than the 35, then it comes to that spot as it would in regular football. So you're going to do no worse than the 35-yard line. You're better off on a punt trying to short kick it, maybe to like the 10-yard line, and hope that coverage can get to the guy rather than kick it through the end zone or coffin corner. All that stuff is done away with. The kickoff that you alluded to is probably, if you folks watching this get a chance to look at the video, it really is wild how they describe the kickoffs. The kickoff team will have the kicker by himself on the 30-yard line. The coverage unit will be down on the opposing 35. The kickoff return unit will be staring them in the face at the 30. So they're 5 yards separated, and neither team can react until the return man catches the ball. So there's no reason to fair catch. You have to return it. And from there, the play goes. The kicker does not get a running start. He has to kick it flat-footed. So that stops it from really going out of the end zone. You don't get any force behind it whatsoever. So they've done a lot of things here to try and create big plays where the NFL has fair catches and, automatic kicks out to the 25-yard line and boring stuff. That won't be the case here, at least in the kick where the kicks are returned. And I'll get to one more thing, because you talked about totals, and maybe this is the most important thing of all, because myself, and I know you too, we like to play totals. And in this league, you can take the phrase key numbers and throw it in the garbage. There are no key numbers in the XFL, so you're not betting against any, you're not getting the benefit of, well, I'll play over 46.5 because 47 wins for me and 47 is a key. In this league, when you score a touchdown, that touchdown could count for 6. That touchdown could count for 7. That touchdown could count for 8. That touchdown could count for 9. And that's all because of the extra point rule, which says if you want to make it a 1-point extra point, then you run a play from the 2-yard line. Successfully, you get a point. If you want to make it a 2-point conversion, the ball backs up to the 5. If you make it from the 5, that's 2 points. If you want to make it a 3-point conversion, it backs up to the 10. And if you make it successfully, then you end up with a 9-point touchdown, which in essence, Drew, makes an 18-point lead just a 2-score game. So they've done a lot in this to make it exciting. The overtime rule we haven't even gotten into, but let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. If anybody's ever watched a soccer shootout, the XFL overtime is going to be a shootout. Teams alternate from the opposing 5-yard line. You get one play from the 5. If you score, you get 2 points. Then the other team goes to the 5, and they get a shot. If they score, they get 2 points. This goes on for 5 plays each. So 10 plays total, 5 plays each from the 5-yard line. At the end of that, if a team has made 3 and another team has only made 2, just like in a soccer shootout, the team that's made 3 wins the game. If it's tied after that, it goes to a single shootout from the 2-yard line. First team to make it with the other team missing it wins the game. If you have a total, you could continuously add points here onto your team score with this shootout. I mean, if both teams made, just for instance, 5 successful attempts each, that's 2 points times 5 is 10 per side. That's 20 more points, and it would continue from there. So it's pretty wild, Drew. They've done an awful lot, as you said, to begin all of this, to make it exciting, to create points. Now we'll see if the offenses can go ahead and execute on all that stuff.
Robbie, this is going to be wild, man. You bring up the kickoff, Robbie, and just the setup of it. I'm chuckling, but I think it's awesome. I mean, it's going to be way better than the kickoffs now, in my opinion, anyway. Just having everybody already down there. I mean, there's probably we talk about head coaches. We got Hal Mummy. We got June Jones. These guys are innovators. They're thinking about, all right, when we really need a kickoff return, we're going to do this, and we're going to see stuff that we haven't seen before in the past. I think it's going to be really exciting. Talking about some of these players, man, the Seattle Dragons is a team that I circled mainly for past betting success on some of these names. I'll throw them out to you. I know you're going to know them. Quarterback BJ Daniels from USF. If you know BJ Daniels, guys, that USF, I believe back in like maybe 2012, 2013, like that time frame, man, if you were betting on USF, you were making some money. He can throw the ball and run the ball. He's just a little bit shorter. That's why I don't think he made it into the NFL, at least not having a successful career. I know he did get drafted. Also, Keenan Reynolds. That's the most rushing yards by any quarterback in college football, over 4,500 rush yards. He was the quarterback actually for Navy. He's a wide receiver on that team. There's some big names there. I feel, Robbie, that it's kind of like regional. The Tampa Bay team has 23 players from the state of Florida, either from Florida or played college in the state of Florida. So there's kind of a lot of like regional stuff happening as well. We got just to name the teams here: Seattle Dragons, DC Defenders, LA Wildcats, Houston Roughnecks, Tampa Bay Vipers, New York Guardians, St. Louis Battlehawks, Dallas Renegades. Just to give you a who's in the league type thing, week 1 here. Robbie, is there anything else you wanted to kind of throw out there in terms of what you're looking to bet maybe week 1? We also have season win totals that we can hit on before we shut this down. But week 1, ways you're looking to maybe attack the marketplace when they do release sides and totals.
Well, I would think, as I mentioned earlier, Drew, I'm interested to see where Houston will shape up as far as point spread is concerned, because I do think June Jones will be a step ahead. Remember in the AAF, that Steve Spurrier's Orlando team wound up being the best team in the league, but because he was so innovative offensively, he got to it immediately, and it took defenses a long time to catch up with him, and really they had a pretty good defense to go with it. So that's kind of what you're looking for here. I would think the Hal Mummy team, the June Jones team. Also, there's some very innovative offensive coordinators that I haven't mentioned, Drew, because we know that Jim Zorn, who is the head coach of the team you just mentioned, the Seattle Dragons, Jim Zorn, I feel, will be very innovative. And his offensive coordinator is Mike Riley, who we know from Oregon State fame and in the college ranks. And the players that you talked about, Keenan Reynolds, BJ Daniels, I mean, what you could come up with those guys on conversion type plays could be pretty wild. So you want to look at that. There was another one I wanted to mention here real quick, and that's home field advantages. And I think because St. Louis doesn't have an NFL team, that St. Louis, from what I've read right now, has the largest active fan base where social media is concerned. The people in St. Louis looking for football once again. This is something they can call their own. They're going to play in what was formerly known as the Edward Jones Dome. They've changed the name on that. I think I have it here. It's now called the Dome at America's Center. But regardless, it's a football dome that will probably be very loud, very rowdy, and play to the benefit of the St. Louis Battlehawks when they have home games. So you might want to look at stuff like that. Quarterback there, Drew, I know you'll know the name. He took over the job at Ole Miss from Shea Patterson. Jordan Ta'amu has been named the starting quarterback there at St. Louis. So another guy who we know from college football who lit it up in an wide open type offense that may be good as well. there's just, as I go through it, I find more and more things to look at. But off the top of my head, those are a few. The two smallest stadiums in this league will be the DC Defenders, who will play in a soccer stadium, the DC United Soccer Stadium, and the LA Wildcats, who are going to play in the same soccer stadium that the LA Chargers played in. Let's hope that the Wildcats get more home fans than away fans, unlike what the Chargers got. But everybody else is in a major stadium. So this ought to be fun.
Yeah, and Robbie, just going down the week 1 schedule here, Seattle at DC, Los Angeles at Houston, Tampa Bay, New York, St. Louis versus Dallas. Do you have a team circled here that you're looking to kind of bet on week 1, or are you not to that point in the week?
Well, from what I've gathered so far, Drew, the Houston-LA matchup will be a matchup of Houston getting the ball out quick offensively against a Los Angeles defensive front that, from what I've read, has been probably the most impressive front seven in the league so far. So that'll be an interesting matchup there. June Jones's run and shoot really gets the ball out quick, might negate a lot of the pass rush that LA has to offer. I might look at that. The St. Louis Battlehawks is a team that when you look on the futures board, you'll find them listed as a real long shot. But they've got some good qualities about them, Drew. And one of them is, they can line up a defense if they wanted to. They can line up an 11-man defense with no player under 6'4". It's a massive defensive unit that will be able to pressure the passer, that will have corners that'll be pretty long in coverage. And as I mentioned before, Jordan Ta'amu at quarterback, dual threat. I kind of like the idea of him. And they've got some key players on that offense, which maybe the offense can help out a little bit. The head coach there, Jonathan Hayes, former tight end of the Kansas City Chiefs, and the offensive coordinator there, Chuck Long, who had a long storied career as coach and also as quarterback of the Detroit Lions and Iowa Hawkeyes before that. So, maybe as a long shot, if you're looking for a future board, St. Louis has a shot. But as far as week 1, from what I saw immediately, I think Houston might be able to negate what LA does best and take advantage of them with their run and shoot attack.
I like it, Robbie. And guys, I think before I said when sides and totals will be released, but actually we do have sides out, Robbie.
Okay.
I got my Westgate app here open.
Good.
So I'll just read them off to you. Let me know if anything kind of surprises you. Seattle, DC, we got DC at home -7 in the hook.
From what I've gathered, Drew, DC is the better team, but I don't know. 7.5 sounds pretty stiff.
We got Los Angeles Wildcats, Houston Roughnecks in the later game on Saturday. We got the home team, Houston Roughnecks, -5 in the hook.
Yeah, see, that's a game where I think we do have an advantage. We just discussed it.
Yeah.
I think that the offense will be able to take care of what LA does best, so I might look toward Houston in that game.
We got Tampa Bay Vipers at New York Guardians in the early game on Sunday. Tampa Bay -2 in the hook on the road, the only road favorite.
Yeah, now, again, from what I've been reading, Drew, and trying to put notes together, the New York Guardians team has the best defensive backfield inside this league, which could help them against a Tampa Bay club, which will likely be a team that throws the ball with Mark Trestman as the head coach there. That number, I think it might be shaded a little bit too much. I have to do a little more investigating into that, but maybe New York is a home underdog. They don't have the best, in my opinion, they don't have the best offensive talent. Not knowing how good this offensive line is going to mesh. I mean, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, skill position. Really, they're down the charts a little bit, but I like their secondary here. It might match up well with Tampa.
And then last game on Sunday, we got 407, 408, St. Louis Battlehawks at the Dallas Renegades. Looks like Dallas, the heaviest favorite on the board here, -10 at home.
Yeah, I think that might be too many. Although, again, you're dealing with a St. Louis team that will have to face a Hal Mummy offense in week 1. Can you prepare for that? I'm not sure that they can prepare for the air raid week 1 of the season. Maybe if this were week 3, be a little bit easier, but still 10 sounds like a lot. In a league, Drew, where the talent was purposely dispersed to make every team equal. At least they tried their best to make every team equal. They didn't want any team having a head start personnel-wise. But what the coaches mold that into is what we're going to find out. I think that Dallas could be a little bit troublesome, but I might look to take 10 with St. Louis because I don't think that's that big of a mismatch.
And Robbie, I'm reading these lines off of the Westgate app here in Las Vegas. They are taking $1,000 limits on the side. I'm not seeing any totals out there. We'll have to wait for a sports book to kind of really roll the dice on some of these totals. I wouldn't even know where to start, man. So this is going to be fun, man. Regular season, 10 games. We got the regular season win totals, quoting our friend Ben Fox at ESPN. Tampa Bay Vipers, 7.5. Dallas Renegades at 6. Houston Roughnecks at 6. DC Defenders at 5.5. Los Angeles Wildcats at 4, New York Guardians at 4, St. Louis Battlehawks at 3.5, and Seattle Dragons at 3.5. I'll tell you, the two bottom teams, quarterback B.J. Daniels and Tamu for St. Louis, they're lined at 3.5. I think you can make an argument they're the two best quarterbacks in the league, Robbie.
Yeah, and I think from what I've seen that the Seattle team is actually going to use Troy State's Brandon Silvers as their quarterback, who again is a very good thrower of the football, and you can use B.J. Daniels as a weapon on offense, much like Keenan Reynolds. So there can be a lot of creativity to that team, Drew. And I would say this, in a 10-game league or on a 10-game schedule, anybody that's asked to go 8-2, I'd bet against. I don't think Tampa Bay would go over 7.5 wins, so that would probably be one of my first plays. I would say under for them. 7-3 sounds like would be the best mark in this league. And then, of course, the bottom guys, like you're saying, over 3.5 to go 4-6 in a league full of unknowns. I think you take that shot. One last thing I want to point out here, Drew, that's unique that we didn't mention is that it's an 8-team league, and then there's another team called Team 9. Team 9 was just formed today officially, and it's basically the I don't want to call it the minor leagues, but let's say you're Seattle and you go out and in game one, a starting wide receiver gets hurt. You look to Team 9, they supplement that. You go down there and you pick a wide receiver. Team 9 actually practices every day, just like a regular team would. They have a head coach like a regular team would, but it's to keep 40, 50 guys in shape for injury purposes. If you get injured, you just look down to Team 9. We need an offensive tackle. Boom. You pull one up, a guy who's been practicing, a guy who's ready to go. You don't have to look to the streets to somebody selling insurance. So Vince McMahon and company have all angles figured out here.
Yeah, it's a nice little idea they got there. I never thought about that. I thought you were going to throw something out like from a movie script, like Team 9 plays every third week or something.
They're there to supplement injuries.
Oh, man, this is good stuff, Rob. I'm going to be handicapping it all season long. I'm excited, and as are you, right?
I am. Once you get this deep into it, Drew, and for anybody watching here and anybody that takes a quick look at it, I would say if you're a football fan, you'll be as excited as me and Drew are about it. It should be fun football. They've got good TV contracts. They took their time putting this thing together. I think it took 3 years. Oliver Luck is commissioner. Dick Ebersol's son partnered with Vince McMahon here. You'll see games on ESPN. You won't have to really search long and hard to find these games. So they're going to get the exposure. And, you know, as we always say, if there's a point spread on it, we're going to be interested in it. I want to see these sports books get the totals up, though, Drew, because the totals are going to be the most fun part of this thing.
Oh, it's going to be great, Robbie. They're not going to be taking much in limits, but that's okay. I don't blame sports books for that. I mean, this is almost impossible to put a lineup on these totals. But guys, check out Robbie Veno, sportsmemo.com. He's hot right now. NBA doing great. 95-71, 57% ROI on the season. So not cherry picking numbers there. Great season for you on the hardwood. You'll get all of his NBA, all of his college basketball, now doing XFL as well. And I'll tell you what, for the podcast, we can do a two for one here. Robbie Veno and Drew Martin's 1 year all access for 2-for-1 pricing there. So just under $1,000 for both of them, and it will go 1 year. So 1 year all access for Robbie Veno and Drew Martin. Just type in XFL at checkout for Robbie Veno's 1 year all access and Drew Martin's 1 year all access, and it will be $9.99 each, and we'll keep it active as long as you get both of them all season long. 1 year all access. Coupon code XFL at checkout. You'll get both of our XFL seasons, Robbie. I'm excited, and we're going to be doing this podcast all season long. Haven't exactly decided on the date yet, just because we want to make sure when these odds are coming out so we have them and can go over them. But feel free in the comments or on Twitter to reach out to us what you want to hear, any questions you got about XFL. Love to hear from you guys. If we need to change anything up, let us know that as well. So at Drew Martin Bets on Twitter and Robbie Veno on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports. So Rob, anything else you wanted to throw out there before we shut this down?
No, I mean, and like you say, Drew, the two of us, I know we're going to be doing the work. So if you haven't had time to put the work in, go ahead and follow us. Drew just offered up the package, so go ahead and take part in it. What should be a really, really fun season. I think that guys are going to tune into this. Folks are going to tune into this, and they're going to like it. So we'll have fun handicapping it, Drew. It's just another thing with a point spread that we can get attached to.
Absolutely. Robbie Veno, I am Drew Martin. Guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will be back with Mid-Major Matt, college basketball, in about 24 hours, so stay tuned. Best of luck with your bets until then.